It's on to Bonn for President Bush. Warm toasts after a delicate compromise on NATO nuclear policy. A new plan President Bush believes will take some of the heat off here in West Germany. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rattle reporting tonight from Bonn. Good evening. President Bush arrived in West Germany tonight excited about early good reaction and good reviews and talking up unity at the end of the NATO summit. The unity is based on a complicated compromise President Bush and Secretary of State Baker worked out in the early hours of this morning, cutting some of the difference between Margaret Thatcher and Helmut Kohl. West Germany argued strongly for reducing, even eventually eliminating, short-range nuclear weapons in Europe. Britain's Margaret Thatcher the hardest line against. The compromise, a final communique allowing each to claim partial victory. President Bush and West German Chancellor Kohl tried to project that unity in Bonn this evening.
I don't believe German-American relations have ever been better.
I think
we've all of us had the personal experience of having to make compromises, and I think that this is a good thing. And just as one concrete answer to your question, there are only winners.
But just how dicey the final communique on NATO nuclear weapons policy was became evident even before the summiteers left Belgium. Britain's Thatcher saying no way, no how to NATO ever buying West German talk of no news.
Just read what they've signed up to. Just read it. When you sign up to something, you sign up to it, and that's that.
For his part, President Bush's fine-line compromise in Belgium did concede some to West Germany. The final communique speaks of a possible deal down the line on partial reduction of short-range nuclear weapons, but never eliminating them.
I would simply say there was total agreement on it, and it speaks for itself. Partial is partial. And to try to interpret it some other way misses the boat. Yeah.
No such hardline talk from Mr. Bush here in Bonn. Nothing to shake the delicate political position Chancellor Kohl is now in, or the awkward position Mr. Bush is in. He spoke softly of Mikhail Gorbachev, who comes to Bonn in June to continue his own charm and disarm offensive.
Winds of change are blowing in Eastern Europe, including in the Soviet Union. And it's happening in part because Mr. Gorbachev has seen that our society works and that his does not. And we welcome these changes and are prepared to move beyond containment to a policy that seeks to integrate the Soviet Union into the community of nations.
For his part, Chancellor Kohl tried to play down talk that West Germany may be swinging away from the Western alliance and getting more into Gorbachev's orbit.
Mr. President, our American friends can rest assured that the Federal Republic's firm entry in the Western community is irrevocable.
Joining me now with more on what came out of the NATO summit, CBS News White House correspondent Leslie Stahl. Leslie, we saw President Bush a number of times today. He looked so happy. He looked to be riding high and feeling that he's on a roll.
He feels vindicated. Before he came over here, there was almost universal criticism that he was incapable of being forceful. He gets here, he makes his bold, innovative initiative, and everybody is saying he pulled a Gorbachev. That's what they're saying, and that's high praise over here. He feels that he proved his critics wrong. He feels that people said he couldn't do it, and he did do it. It's an I told you so attitude, and while I wouldn't want to say it's gloating, it comes awfully close.
And how did this get done?
Well, being bold and being innovative is not natural for George Bush and Jim Baker. They're compromisers by instinct, by experience. This was a very difficult process for them to get to this initiative. It was like a painful birth. The minute it was over and he made the initiative, he scurried onto familiar territory, compromising. He and Jim Baker got themselves in between the British and the Germans and became the mediators here, the compromisers. Someone said, are they going to have a deal? And someone else said, well, is Jim Baker in the room? As if to say, is the Pope Catholic? Of course they're going to have a deal. He negotiated it. And you're going to see, I think, that happen more frequently in foreign policy with this team, where they know they have to be bold, and it will always be difficult for them to do that, but they're always going to try to maneuver themselves into places where they can negotiate.
A lot of talk about this being a major policy shift. Those who don't like it will call it a flip-flop. How big a shift is it?
Well, up to now, George Bush has seemed to be fighting the end of the Cold War, fighting the end of the military buildup that he squired with Ronald Reagan. And what he did in this initiative was acknowledge that those days are over, that the era of dismantling is upon us. He went beyond just recognizing that. He told the Europeans he wanted to lead in this new era, and that's just what they wanted to hear from him.
The era of build down instead of build up. Thank you, Leslie Stahl. The early Soviet reaction today to the Bush-NATO proposals for reducing conventional forces in Europe. Correspondent David Martin reports Gorbachev was talking up reducing the size of the overall Soviet defense budget.
For once, it is the Soviets who are reacting to an American arms control proposal. And to hear Foreign Minister Shevardnadze tell it, the two superpowers are closer than ever to agreeing on radical cuts in conventional arms.
My first impression is that this is a serious step in the right direction. It wasn't accidental that I said we should study all of this. In general, this idea is very attractive.
There are still important differences. President Bush called for a 15% cut in all land-based combat aircraft in Europe. That includes both offensive strike aircraft and defensive fighter aircraft. The Soviets say the cuts should focus only on offensive aircraft. And there is still fundamental disagreement over short-range nuclear weapons. The Soviets want talks on eliminating short-range nuclear missiles to begin immediately. The U.S. says that can't happen until after there is an agreement to reduce conventional weapons.
We think that this is a protraction, and the protraction that we don't need.
Despite the disagreements, the barriers to arms control are coming down. Today in Moscow, Mikhail Gorbachev unveiled what American analysts are calling the first realistic estimate of Soviet defense spending, $118 billion. That's still less than half what the U.S. spends, but much of the difference can be explained by the fact that the Soviets rely on conscripts who are paid next to nothing.
It doesn't matter so much the particular number. What matters is this is going to start a debate in the Soviet Union about the defense budget.
That debate will almost certainly create pressure to reduce the Soviet defense budget. And that in turn will feed pressure to reach an agreement with NATO on conventional arms cuts in Europe. David Martin, CBS News, The Pentagon.
In a moment, Bob Schieffer in Washington will have other news of the day. And I'll be back from Bonn later in the broadcast with more on NATO, the troubled alliance.
All brand, part of your health kick? Yeah. Helps ensure I get enough fiber.
Each morning, Tracy Reed takes out some fiber insurance with Kellogg's All Bran, concentrated fiber that can help her meet the National Cancer Institute's guidelines for a high-fiber, low-fat diet. A diet some studies suggest may reduce the risks of certain forms of cancer.
Oh, you're crazy to worry about stuff like that.
And I'd be crazy not to.
Kellogg's All Bran. Make it your daily fiber policy.
Pardon me. Yeah, telephone? Phone? Telephone? Oh, great. Excuse me, you see a phone around here? Sorry, thanks.
Now, most everywhere in Western Europe you can find a phone. You can find America on MCI.
MCI operator, may I help you?
You speak English?
Well, yes, sir. Most Americans do.
MCI. We are the better long-distance company.
Did you know that certain kinds of diet frozen foods get 40, even 50% of their calories from fat? Fat! Eat smarter. The one you can trust is Le Menu Lifestyle. Every serving is under 300 calories, helps you limit sodium, cholesterol, and is low fat. The only thing we didn't touch is the taste. Le Menu Lifestyle. Eat smarter.
The flood of trouble that has engulfed Democratic leaders in the House of Representatives grew even wider and deeper tonight. CBS News law correspondent Rita Braver has learned that new problems have now surfaced for embattled House Speaker Jim Wright, and that a separate investigation is now underway into business dealings of yet another top Democrat in the House. Rita?
Bob, Justice Department sources tell CBS News that the FBI has opened a criminal investigation into financial dealings involving Democratic Representative William Gray of Philadelphia. He is chairman of the Democratic Caucus, one of the highest-ranking Democrats in the House. The sources revealed few details of the investigation, but one source said that it did involve allegations involving personnel. One source said that FBI agents visited Gray this weekend to ask for his cooperation in the investigation, which was not forthcoming, and subpoenas in the case are expected within the next few weeks. Just this Sunday, he said he knew of no future revelations about Democratic leaders that could rock his party.
I know that all of us feel very confident. I know this member certainly feels confident that there are no problems.
The news comes on the same day that Justice Department sources say that the department's public integrity section has opened a preliminary criminal investigation into Speaker Jim Wright's financial problems. This is an escalation from the department's previous posture of just keeping an eye on the case, and means that FBI agents will now determine whether or not there is enough evidence to warrant a formal grand jury investigation. And Bob, just a few minutes ago, someone close to Mr. Gray called to say that perhaps Mr. Gray is being set up. There are lots of rumors circulating through Washington tonight.
Thank you, Rita. Wright's troubles at the Capitol also grew more complicated today as the ranking Republican on the House Ethics Committee said that when the committee reconvenes later this week, it could decide to expand its investigation into Wright's business dealings.
There is a possibility that the committee might consider other charges. We have been investigating the gas well, the dry hole in Texas, the Sabine Lake.
As Wright left home this morning, congressional supporters who'd predicted last week that Wright would resign said a weekend away from the Capitol seemed to put him more in a mood to fight the charges, a view supported by one of his lawyers.
I spoke to the Speaker this morning. He certainly had no plan to resign. There's no secret agenda that we're keeping from people.
Wright's partner in the controversial publishing deal that triggered the original trouble said folks back home are urging Wright to fight to the end.
We've been with him for 35 years, and we expect him to stay in here and fight this thing.
And Washington sources said Majority Leader Foley, the odds-on favorite to replace Wright, is also under the impression now that Wright has decided to stick it out for a few more days.
It's his decision to make. I expect him to go forward.
Even so, some of Wright's closest home state friends conceded today Wright's battle is probably already lost.
I believe it's probably too late to change things in his favor to mean he could stay here permanently, but I believe justice would be served by following the game to the end. My personal opinion is that he'll do it Wednesday or Thursday.
That reflected the feeling of many of Wright's Washington friends tonight, but the bottom line seems to be only Wright knows for sure. On another subject, the government reported today that in spite of high interest rates, sales of new homes rose a healthy 10.9% in April. That was the sharpest monthly gain in more than a year.
Do you like Raisin Bran? Yes, I do. Well, this is new Total Raisin Bran. It tastes just as good as your Raisin Bran, but it has 4 times the vitamin nutrition. So can you think of one single reason why Total Raisin Bran shouldn't be your Raisin Bran? No hurry. Got plenty of time.
Originally, I was taking aspirin for my headaches. Aspirin would sometimes irritate my stomach, and I called the doctor, and he told me to try Tylenol. It wouldn't cause the stomach irritation that aspirin can. Tylenol really worked for me. It got rid of my headaches. I didn't have any problems after I took Tylenol.
Lana Carson trusts Tylenol. Its pain reliever is in a class by itself.
It's a wonderful pain reliever for me, and it works great.
Where does it hurt?
Here.
For heartburn and gas, your medical answer is Extra Strength Malox Plus. Its doctor-recommended formula neutralizes more than any leading antacid. Ask your doctor about Extra Strength Malox Plus.
Ever try this coffee?
Oh, no. I use a special blend, brewed fresh.
So do we. But then we freeze dry it to lock in superior flavor and aroma until you release it.
Perfect. Who are you?
We're Taster's Choice.
88-year-old Claude Pepper died today at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. It was a stomach ailment, the last member of Congress elected during the New Deal. His career had spanned 10 presidents, but it is the elderly who will remember him most fondly.
Save Social Security! Save Social Security!
Claude Pepper and the elderly were synonymous. He was their spokesman, their champion, their most fervent and effective advocate. The one person in Washington who listened patiently to their problems and always offered understanding.
How many more Americans out there are going to have the same experience that you all have had?
His active lifestyle became an inspiration to generations who'd been taught that life ended at retirement. He fought to make their lives easier, and he always had time to brighten their day.
Well, I'm so glad to greet you, a person who's had a wonderful life of 107 years.
He became a role model for the elderly, and they loved him all the more because he fought their fight so long.
He's been for the elderly for a long, long time, even before he joined them.
That was the unbelievable part, that he had been at it so long. First elected to the Senate in 1936, he made Time magazine's cover in 1938 as a fighter for FDR's New Deal.
Now that's an outrageous condition.
50 years later, he was still at it, still fighting for the folks who needed a little help, still challenging government to do what is not always easy, still daring his colleagues to answer the hard questions.
When you go home tonight and you close your eyes and sleep and you ask, what have I done today to lighten the burden upon those who suffer? At least you could say, I helped a little bit today. I voted to help those who needed help.
For some, those were hard questions, but not for Claude Pepper, because he helped a lot on most every day in his long life. And a resolution will be introduced in the House and Senate tomorrow to have Claude Denson Pepper's body lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda. The power struggle in China apparently is far from over. Sources said today that the division between hardliners and moderates is so deep that a scheduled meeting of the party's Central Committee was postponed. Some Beijing protesters held a sit-in at the Public Security Ministry. They were protesting the reported arrest of 3 union leaders who backed the movement for democracy. In Tiananmen Square, students unveiled their Goddess of Democracy statue. The government called it humiliating. Hungary's ruling Communist Party took a decisive step today in its rehabilitation of former Premier Imre Nagy. The party declared that Nagy was illegally executed for his part in the 1956 Hungarian uprising, which the Soviets put down. On June 16th, Nagy's remains will be reburied in a funeral that the Communist Party says it hopes will be a time of reconciliation. The U.S. Air Force temporarily closed a bombing range in South Korea today after 100 local farmers and villagers scaled the fences. The protesters injured 10 U.S. servicemen with clubs and rocks. They also damaged more than 20 vehicles and ransacked several buildings. The protesters want the bombing range shut down. A state of siege exists tonight in Argentina. President Alfonsín suspended civil rights as food riots erupted over runaway inflation. 3 bombs exploded today in the financial district of Buenos Aires, injuring 2 people. 2 other bombs exploded last night in the capital, and there was rioting in the suburbs. The worst looting violence was in Argentina's 3rd largest city of Rosario. At least 3 people died, 800 were arrested. Shelves and supermarkets were stripped bare. Inflation this month alone is expected to top 70%. Well, Dan Rather will be back in a moment from Bonn, West Germany, with more on President Bush, NATO, and Europe.
If you thought you had to give up comfort to get a close shave, Norelco says, think again. Their revolutionary shaving system shaves skin close in a way that's incredibly comfortable. As the hair enters the chamber, the patented lift and cut system lifts each hair and holds it a split second before a blade cuts it, so it's possible to shave skin close without the blades even touching the skin. The lift and cut shaving system from Norelco. We made close comfortable.
Enter the American Family Sweepstakes this week, and your dreams of instant wealth may come true sooner than you think.
Ours sure did.
The next $10 million prize may be yours, and you could win another $1 million this July 7th when I announce the winning number on TV. Get more fun out of life.
We sure are.
Win fast at American Family, the only sweepstakes with my picture. You could be a millionaire this summer. Enter fast.
To the average car, this could be a dangerous body of water, even though it's only an inch deep. That's why you should drive the new 4-wheel drive Subaru Legacy, the latest in foul weather gear.
Got a nice minty taste to it.
That's good.
Can you say that about your liquid antacid? If not, taste Tums Liquid.
It has a nice taste to it. It's delicious. Tums tastes the best.
Tums Liquid. It works, and it really tastes good.
Joining me now with more on a pivotal day for U.S.-West German relations, our State Department correspondent, Bill Plant. Bill?
Dan, to understand what happened here today, it's important to know that there's a new mood in Germany, a real sense of coming of age, as we discovered traveling around the country over the past couple of weeks. Even as it celebrates 40 years of post-war democracy, West Germany wants out of the shadow of its past. Newly confident, assertive, Germany is determined to call its own shots.
I think by now it's time that Germany becomes more independent from the United States.
The Germans have come a long way from the end of World War II, when the country lay in ruins and was rebuilt with U.S. and Allied help. Today, it's the richest power in Europe, the largest exporter in the world. The people, most of whom weren't even alive at the war's end, have money, leisure, and a standard of living many Americans would envy. 40 years ago, one hard-eyed cynic summed up the purpose of the new NATO alliance: to keep the Americans in, the Russians out, and the Germans down. Well, today, West Germany thinks that it has earned the right to go its own way in an equal partnership, and that makes a lot of people nervous.
It certainly worries the neighbors of Germany, because they have long memories. They remember what a strong Germany meant 50 years ago, or even 100 years ago.
The memories are still alive at the new Jewish Cultural Center in Frankfurt, where the windows are bomb-proof glass, and the people worry that some of the past survives.
I think that there is a new nationalism in Germany coming from both sides, the left and the right side, and that we have to pay very much attention about this new evolution.
In Berlin, a demonstration against neo-Nazis results in scattered violence.
In our society, it is very easy to stay Nazi. It's not a problem. Nobody does anything against it.
A West German chemical company is charged with helping Libya to build a plant capable of producing poison gas. Those are reasons why some people, like Jack Bennett, an American who has lived in Berlin for almost 50 years, never get over their distrust of the Germans.
It's like being in love with a, say, clever lady of the evening. But someday she's going to kick you. Someday she's going to steal your pocketbook. She's going to cut right back on you. You might lose your fortune, you might lose your life. The Germans.
But though Germany acknowledges the horror of its past, it no longer quietly turns the other cheek to German bashing.
You can't punish and declare guilty 60, 80, or 100 million people for the rest of their history. We reached a stage where we think we must speak out.
And they are. The Germans have spoken out against U.S. short-range nuclear missiles and on dealing with their neighbors to the east.
I can say that I'm really proud to be German, but I'm also not ashamed.
On this, their 40th birthday, West Germans say their country is firmly committed to democracy and the West, but that it must be free to pursue its own interests, which will no longer automatically be the same as those of the United States. In short, look for West Germany more and more to direct its own political and economic energies, particularly toward Eastern Europe.
Bill Plant, thank you.
It was Dean Witter's personal philosophy of success.
We have a sacred trust to protect our customers.
But its impact was felt on California Street,
To maintain conservative policies.
on Lincoln Street, and Acorn Street.
To put the interest of our clients first.
Dean Witter put principles before profit, people before portfolios. There are many ways to measure success on Wall Street.
We measure success one investor at a time.
Dean Witter, a member of the Sears Financial Network.
Now, Red Lobster's new 5-star shrimp sampler. 5 kinds of shrimp on one plate, just $8.95.
More for you, David Freeman.
Savory grilled shrimp, scrumptious scampi, Cajun popcorn, and more. 5 kinds for just $8.95.
More for you, Stacy Class.
A kid's meal, $1.95. Hurry.
Red Lobster, there's more for you to love.
Now get a half pound of snow crab legs for $3.95 with any entree.
With arthritis, there's pain. And then there's pain. For relief, there's aspirin. And then there's Anacin. The Anacin aspirin formula has more medicine than regular aspirin.
That's not relief. That's relief.
Anacin.
Today's X-Lax is our good morning, guaranteed.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Medical experts agree. X-Lax actually restores the level of natural fluid in your system.
Good morning.
X-Lax, the sure way back to natural regularity, guaranteed.
President Bush hinted here today that he might have something to say about Berlin before he leaves West Germany. For all the boom and bustle and talk of détente here in West Germany, there is still the drab and repression on the other side of the Berlin Wall. Chief European correspondent Tom Fenton looks now at East Germany's reform on the slow track.
It's the look of East Germany that is changing first. Muscular is out, seductive is in. In an effort to put a more attractive face on an old-fashioned dictatorship, the regime is relaxing some of the controls on cultural life, but that's as far as it dare go. East Germany is stubbornly out of step with the rest of the communist world. Party leader Erich Honecker is relying on superficial changes and tight police control to stifle demands for Gorbachev-style reform. If the floodgates of reform were open, Honecker and his aging Politburo would be swept from office. This remains the most orthodox communist regime in Eastern Europe. But even here in East Germany, there is dissent. There's long been a human rights movement in the church, but now you can find dissent in the universities and even in the lower ranks of the party. Most of it is behind the scenes, but people are talking about change, talking about problems.
When I see the other socialist countries, for instance, Soviet Union, and I see the development in all other countries, I think this is also possible in our country.
Economic problems are creating pressure for radical reforms. They used to boast here that German efficiency could make Marxism work. Now growth is grinding to a halt, and Vietnamese workers are being imported to overcome a manpower shortage. With the economy stagnating and political reforms blocked by Honecker, at least 750,000 East Germans have applied to leave. Severe restrictions on travel to the West mean many must wait for years.
The conditions in our country must improve from the economic point of view, from the political point of view, so that people are feel more that this is my country and I feel I like to be here.
East Germans still look west, not east. Almost 200 have died trying to flee since Honecker built the wall in 1961. 5,000 have made it safely. The reality of the police state endures. People are still trying to flee. These two men tried last month. An East German border guard opened fire. The two men were caught and led back to the German Democratic Republic. Tom Fenton, CBS News, East Berlin.
And that's the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting tonight from Bonn, West Germany. See you tomorrow. Good night. This is CBS.